I never thought I'd see the day when someone would block the emergency room entrance of a hospital, not because their car broke down, not because of some accident, but because they decided their coffee run mattered more than human lives. That's the image burned into my head, a shiny white SUV sprawled across the red-painted curb while nurses shouted, ambulances wailed in the distance, and inside my own sister was being rushed in for urgent care. If those ambulances had been delayed another few minutes, someone could have died. And the worst part, the woman behind the wheel wasn't just some stranger. She was Linda Prescott, the HOA president of my neighborhood, the self-appointed queen of Maplewood Grove, the woman who thought the rules existed for everyone but her. I live in Maplewood Grove, a suburban community that should have been peaceful. I've been there for 5 years, long enough to see how a neighborhood can slowly get strangled by an HOA president who treats her title like royal blood. Linda Prescott is in her 50s, blonde hair that's clearly bottled, sunglasses the size of satellite dishes, and a voice that could peel paint when she feels disrespected. On the surface, she preaches about community pride, property values, and protecting our standards. In reality, she bullies homeowners over mailbox colors and harasses anyone who dares question her. I've had my run-ins with her small fines, passive-aggressive letters, but what I saw at St. Mary's Hospital that day, it pushed everything to another level. My sister Leah was in the back of an ambulance, clutching her belly, terrified because her pregnancy had hit a dangerous complication. I drove behind the ambulance, heart-pounding headlights cutting through the late afternoon haze. When we pulled into the hospital, my relief snapped in half. Right in front of the ER entrance, where the curb screamed, "Do not block" in fire engine red, sat Linda's SUV parked diagonally like she was saving the space for a photo shoot. Hazard lights blinking, windows down, and this still makes my jaw clench. She was blasting some motivational audiobook about embracing your personal power. You can't make this stuff up. The security guard jogged up to her window, knocking gently at first. "Ma'am, you can't park here. This is for ambulances." Linda didn't even look at him. She raised one manicured finger in the air as if to say wait, scrolling through her phone like he was interrupting a board meeting. When he tried again, reminding her lives depended on that entrance, she sighed dramatically and said, "I'll only be 5 minutes. My time is important." 5 minutes. But in Linda's world, 5 minutes is forever. I jumped out of my car, adrenaline spiking, shouting across the driveway, "Linda, move your car. People are dying in there." She turned her head slowly, recognized me, and smirked. "Daniel, don't forget who runs our community. Watch your tone." She actually had the audacity to threaten me in front of the hospital entrance while my sister was being rushed inside. I wanted to rip my hair out. But what could I do? If I touched her car, she'd spin it into vandalism. If I screamed louder, she'd call it harassment. I felt helpless standing there while my sister was wheeled past chaos into a building designed for saving lives, not for fighting egos. The crowd was growing, nurses leaning out the ER doors, shouting for her to move, family members of patients yelling about common-sense strangers recording on their phones. And Linda. She doubled down. She put on her sunglasses, reclined her seat, and took a slow sip from her cup like she was on a beach vacation. It was theater, pure arrogance, and for a second I thought this was it. This was the kind of moment where someone like me just gives up. I actually wondered if I was the crazy one. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she really would move in a minute. Maybe fighting her, the woman who ran our HOA like a tyrant, was pointless. She fined me once for leaving my garbage cans out for an extra hour. What power did I have against her in a hospital parking lot? I felt myself shrinking, my voice dying in my throat. And then the universe intervened. A tow truck rumbled into view, lights flashing like salvation. The crowd buzzed, eyes wide, phones raised higher. Linda's mask cracked the second she saw it. She flew out of her SUV, arms flailing, shouting, "You can't tow me! This is harassment. I know the mayor." The tow truck driver didn't blink. He looked like the type of man who'd seen 100 Karens before breakfast. Calm, methodical, he hooked her SUV while Linda screamed about lawsuits and medical rights. She even tried climbing back into her car mid-lift, hanging onto the door like a stunt double in a bad action movie. The driver tightened the chain, gave a small shrug, and smirked as if to say, "Lady, I get paid by the hour." Nurses clapped. A kid yelled, "Bye, Felicia." The laughter rolled through the crowd like thunder. And then the punch to the gut. Just as the tow truck pulled away with her car, an ambulance screamed into the exact spot Linda had been blocking. A patient was wheeled out in seconds. My stomach twisted with both relief and rage. That ambulance could have been too late if not for the tow. Someone could have died because of her latte break. I should have felt vindicated, but instead I felt drained, almost hollow. Linda was still shouting, still spinning her reality like she was the victim. She stormed into the hospital lobby, heels clicking, sunglasses still on her purse, slamming against the reception desk. "I need to speak to whoever is in charge of this circus," she barked. I followed more out of disbelief than anything else, standing off to the side as she demanded compensation, claiming she had been emotionally scarred by the staff. She even pulled out her phone live, streaming her rant, spinning in circles so everyone online could see the hospital behind her. A nurse pushed a stretcher past, and Linda actually yelled, "Excuse me, you're in my shot." The room erupted in laughter, strangers shaking their heads, one guy muttering, "Lady, this isn't Netflix. Sit down." But Linda wasn't finished. When hospital security calmly told her she needed to leave, she clutched her pearls. Yes, actual pearls, and shouted, "I demand the chief of medicine, the mayor, maybe even the governor." She threw herself on the floor, fake fainting, groaning. "Oh no, I'm having a medical emergency. You're legally required to treat me now." A nurse crouched down, touched her wrist, and announced dryly, "Her pulse is fine. She's just being dramatic." The waiting room burst into laughter. Linda sprang up, red-faced, shrieking, "How dare you mock my suffering?" Then she called 911 right there, telling the operator she was being kidnapped by hospital staff. Even the security guard had to cover his mouth to keep from laughing. When the police arrived, Linda ran to them like they were knights sent to rescue her. She wailed about her car being stolen, about her rights being violated. The officers listened for all of 30 seconds before one asked flatly, "So your emergency is that your car was towed for blocking ambulances?" Linda puffed up her chest and said, "Yes, abuse of power." The second officer rubbed his face like he'd just aged 10 years. When Linda refused to calm down, yelling at them too, they gave her one last warning. She gasped, threw her hands in the air and screamed, "You can't arrest me, I'm the victim." But this time the officers didn't entertain her fantasy. They escorted her out the doors as the waiting room cheered like it was the finale of a sitcom. And then fate delivered the final blow. Outside, Linda stomped across the parking lot, heels cracking against the pavement, shouting into her phone about lawsuits and human rights. She spotted the tow truck driver across the street, still filling out paperwork, and launched herself at him. "You ruined my life. You're a criminal," she screamed, pointing at him like he'd kicked her puppy. The driver barely looked up. "Lady, I move cars. That's it." She threatened to call his boss. Plot twist. His boss was standing right there sipping coffee. He raised his cup and said, "Yeah, I told him to tow it. You got a problem." For the first time all day, Linda was speechless. For 2 seconds. Then she yelled, "I'll sue you too." The crowd of bystanders roared with laughter. But the universe wasn't done humiliating her. As she ranted, arms flailing, she stepped backward and tripped into a hospital wheelchair. Perfect landing. She rolled a few feet back, flailing like a bad street performer. Someone shouted, "Look!" She finally found parking. The crowd doubled over in laughter. Even one of the police officers had to turn away to hide his grin. Linda, red-faced and tangled in the chair's footrests, screamed, "Stop laughing at me," which of course only made the laughter louder. And just then, another ambulance roared past into the ER sirens blaring, reclaiming the space Linda had stolen. The symbolism was brutal. Life moved forward, patients got help, and Linda sat there, stuck, humiliated, powerless. By the end of the day, clips of her meltdown were already viral. Linda screaming at nurses, Linda fainting in the ER, Linda rolling backward in a wheelchair, it spread like wildfire. And for the first time in years, Linda Prescott wasn't feared in Maplewood Grove. She was ridiculed. Within a week, the HOA board held a special meeting. The community voted her out, stripping her of the power she'd abused for so long. I stood outside my house staring at the quiet street and felt a weight lift from my chest. For once I didn't feel small under her shadow. She was gone. Her crown shattered, her throne empty. If there's a lesson here, it's simple. When someone thinks they're above the rules, life has a way of reminding them no one is untouchable.